What is up, YouTube? It's your boy, Kendrick Youngblood, back with another video. All right, this is going to be a quick, nice one. We're doing an analysis, a breakdown of The Negro Speaks of Rivers by Langston Hughes. So I'm going to get to reading it, and then we're going to piece it apart, all right? I've known rivers, ancient as the world, and older than the flow of human blood in human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates when dawns were young. I built my hut near the Congo, and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans, and I've seen its muddy bosom turn all gold in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient, dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. All right, so right off the bat, with the title of the poem itself, Langston Hughes helps us identify who the speaker is. The title says, "The Negro Speaks of Rivers," and the very first line of the poem says, "I've known rivers." So the I in this case is a Negro. It is a black individual, right? Now, right after that, the speaker makes a comparison between rivers and the world in terms of time, right? So the flow of rivers is kind of like the flow of time. It goes way, way back. And then as you see throughout the poem, there's more mentions of rivers as if to say, just like the flow of time continues to move forward, so do rivers. You know what I'm saying? All right. So there's that connection between the flow of time and the flow of rivers. And then later on, just a few words later, you have a comparison between rivers and the flow of human blood in human veins, right? But what do we know about the cardiovascular system, right? It carries blood to all the regions of the body requiring oxygen and nutrients. Well, rivers do the same thing. Rivers carry water and life to all regions of the earth. In fact, all ancient civilizations were based around bodies of water, around rivers, you know what I'm saying? And that's pretty much what he gets into next, right? So he goes on to say, my soul has grown deep like the rivers, and I'll go into what that means later. And then he says, I bathed in the Euphrates when dawns were young. All right, so what is the Euphrates? The Euphrates is a river that flowed through the Garden of Eden, right? And it's located in a region called Mesopotamia. And that's a term that historians use to describe the Fertile Crescent, the cradle of civilization, a certain location in the Middle East where urban centers were first believed to have blown up, right? So he's saying in this ancient place, in the dawn of humanity, that's where I was. I was bathing in the Euphrates. So he's pretty much saying his heritage, his roots go way, way back to the beginning. You feel me? All right. So he goes on to say, I built my hut near the Congo and it lulled me to sleep. The Congo is one of the largest rivers in Africa. It actually goes from West Africa deep into Central Africa. All right. So he's saying, like, those are my roots too, He then goes on to say, I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. So he's saying the Egyptians, all right, that ancient powerhouse of a civilization, right? He's saying that's my heritage right there, all right? The Egyptians are known to be among the most well-regarded ancient architects and innovators. And he's saying, yup, that's me. That is me right there, all right? So you can see there seems to be a lot of pride that he has in his heritage and who his ancestors are, things like that. He says, I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans. All right, so for starters, singing of the Mississippi. Well, he's talking about the Mississippi River. We know rivers don't sing, but he's personifying the river in this case. So why would the Mississippi River be singing when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans? All right, well, that's quite simple. Abraham Lincoln, he's known to be the person who proclaimed the emancipation of slaves, right? And assuming that the Negro's connection with the river is really deep, the Mississippi River would be very happy that Abraham Lincoln is coming to New Orleans, right? In fact, if you want the story behind this line specifically, Abraham Lincoln first got exposed to the terrors of slavery, to the horrors of slavery, when he traveled down the Mississippi River to New Orleans. And he did this as a teenager. I've left some notes here if you're curious about all that. But yeah, so right here, it seems like the Mississippi River is a companion of the Negro if it's very excited for Abraham Lincoln's coming to New Orleans. You feel me? All right, so he then goes on to say, oh, before I even get into that, the Mississippi River is also the longest river in the United States, okay? And this also happens to be the longest line of the entire poem, okay? So hopefully that provides some explanation as to why this line is so goddamn long, right? And that kind of ties back to this line being long as well, right? Where it says, I've known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood and human veins. It's talking about like the stretch of human history. So it makes sense that that line will be long too. Langston Hughes was a genius. He knew what he was doing. But yeah, it goes on to say, and I've seen its muddy bosom turn all gold in the sunset. All right, so here again, there's some personification, right? Rivers don't have bosoms, they don't have chests, but in this case, for Langston Hughes, they certainly do, right? And anything that has a chest has a heart. So he's talking about the heart of Mississippi, right? You can see the sort of layering where there's singing above bosom, there's Mississippi above golden, and there's Abe above sunset, right? So a lot of times, we sing from the chest, so there's that parallel there. Golden, talking about the color of the Mississippi River during sunset. So you see that parallel there. And then having sunset below Abe is kind of implying that like Abraham Lincoln brought about the end of a lot of the troubles, right? Being slavery, you know what I'm saying? So there's that parallel there. You can kind of see that Langston Hughes was doing a lot of thinking when it came to how he formatted the poem, right? There was some layering there, right? And if you think about it, this isn't just something I'm imagining. This is the only line of the poem that is actually indented. So he really intended for singing to be above bosom, Mississippi to be above golden, Abe above sunset. So like a lot goes into form than you might realize. And the best poets know how to really contemplate form and make it an extension of the content of the poem itself, right? Form is always an extension of the content. That's actually a quote. I'll try to put the link to the quote in the description because I can't remember who said it, but it wasn't me. Like I didn't come up with that. But yeah. So he goes on to say, I've known rivers. All right. So at this point, we know what he means when he says, I've known rivers. He said that as the first line of the poem. And at the time, you might have been like, okay, like he's familiar with rivers. Like, oh yeah, I know there's, I know there's the Tigris River, or I know there's the Yangtze River, or I know there's the Yellow River. No, he's saying I'm familiar with these rivers. As in, I know them on a personal basis, as in I am deeply rooted in them. My history, my ancestors have a connection with them. So it's not a matter of head knowledge, all right? This isn't mere head knowledge. This is personal familiarity, okay? My soul has grown deep like the rivers. His heritage is deeply rooted in the ancient history of these rivers. You feel me? So this is pretty much a celebration piece, if you ask me, a celebration of one's heritage, of one's background, where you come from. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, this is relevant even today. Like a lot of African Americans, they don't know where they come from, things like that. This is a way of celebrating, hey, this is where you come from. This is your lineage. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much that. I'm going to leave the link to this breakdown in the description of the video. So if you like what you heard, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, IG at Kendrick_Youngblood. All right. I'll leave that in the description too. But yeah, comment if you like this, comment what kind of poems you'd like me to do a breakdown of, and I'll be back with another one. Deuces.